when you go back down through past the fire station and the park station, go up that road. It's part of Centennial Trail. Take the first right, the gravel road. That's Carlson Road. The trailhead's right up in there somewhere. Go to the top of Carlson, and you'll look out on Trautman Ranch. It's a beautiful view. It's really, with the state park and the Trautman land, it's the only park not developed. I mean, this could have been like Suncrest on the other side of the river. One of my father's failures in farming, he planted oats here one year, didn't work out, but he had sprinkler pipes in here, and this was all became grazing land. There were some interior fences, got rid of those. Thank you to Rhineland Auctions. Okay, so down along here, we had some junk to clear out of here too. My dad started adding storage space because he understood that he couldn't just put everything on the hillside. So you'll see two large storage buildings that he built in three pieces. One is two halves and then this big one. And he had lots of stuff stored in there. Like I said, I think there were a couple of boats in there and 3 tractors and a couple of pickup trucks and a couple of cars and riding lawnmower. I mean, you could hardly move in there. I mean, it was really, really filled in there. Now, the nice thing about this bluff, as we head back down, if you come out over here, I'll talk a little bit about this area. My grandmother loved pets. She would buy these little skinny dachshunds, and pretty soon they were this big around and dragging along. She had a lot of dachshunds, a poodle, a Dalmatian. I think the first dog I ever saw them with was an Airedale, and she buried the pets on this hillside. Now every day when Jim and I were in the house, Jim would find something unusual for me. One day he found my grandmother's ashes. So they're spread here with her pets. A surprise every day. Two different walnut trees in here. 3 or 4 varieties of apples. There's a Bartlett pear tree that some years it's so weighed down the branches, you have to be careful that branches don't break. They had to clean up part of one of the walnut trees that evidently broke during the summer. But it's an old tree, it's getting brittle and such. You'll see nothing but pine around here and a little bit of fir, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of spruce in there. Grandmother planted them when they were that tall in 4 corners of the yard. And then the catalpa tree we'll see again in a second. And so that was the home site. Pretty small home. Ranch house, pine wood floors, pine wood paneling on most of the walls. My father had gone about kind of filling it up with stuff. We had two rooms, his old bedroom and his mother's old bedroom that we called the land of lost presents. Things that my brother and other people and I had given him over the years. We kept finding a variety of things. We'd have enough for our own used appliance shop if we wanted, although a lot of them were never even taken out of the box. Between Eric and the state, and I understand why the house had to go. It would become a party, meth lab, something or other. But that was kind of hard, seeing that go. They tore it down to the anniversary of my dad's death. Barbecue. My grandfather made one like the one back in the Isle of Pines. There's a Dutch oven here sitting on the ground. A long table. We would come here during the summer and have picnics, 3 generations of us. like I said, unless the yellow jackets, you get a yellow jacket year once in a while, and then they would drive us out. But this willow here is completely encircled it, so it's kind of a rustic looking thing. This was a pole corral, post and pole corral. My grandmother would have the horses here. She could look right out the side window of the house and see her horses were safe. And then, of course, they would take them down to the barn at night. You can still see one of the Trautman mistakes. She had a raccoon feeder built and put in there. Try to get rid of them after you've fed them. It's a big mistake. Yeah, let's see if somebody knows about raccoons there. In this open space here was the beautiful old barn. Had to be a lot of value in the wood there, but when the demolition guy came in, and we had tried to contract with a couple people to come in and get the wood, but my lawyer told me if they're not bonded and licensed, you can't do it. It's too big a liability on your insurance plan. So the building eater came in and ate it up. I think it only took like an hour and a half. Wow. The way that thing works, it's terrible to watch. But that's where the horses were, cows. When my dad got a divorce, he had nowhere to go. He had renters in the house. The lady didn't want to leave the house, so he made himself living quarters in a stall in the barn. She finally relented and left, but it was kind of an interesting deal. Distressed with my father when he did the logging, it pretty much destroyed the pond for a while. So he and another guy got together, they rebuilt one end, a dam on one end, and so it's recovering today, but it's nothing like what it was when we were kids. We had ice skating parties up there and marshmallow roasts, and the horses in the summer would go in there. It wasn't very deep, and they'd roll in the water and the mud to get the flies off and to cool off. When we were kids, my brother and I would walk with my grandmother up and down these fields. Used to be lots of wild flowers that we'd gather on the hillside, take some back for Mom and some for grandmother. My grandmother would go out with flat pieces of wood, probably shingles, and no trespassing and no hunting signs every fall. We'd follow along behind her after we came home from school for an hour or so. We'd probably do that for about a week, tapping up signs that people had torn down, from year to year. They were very much into keeping hunters out and keeping the animals in. My father discovered about 10 or 15 years ago a fence line that he had was not the true fence line. His fence line's now gone, but you can see where the state park, where the property line actually was. You have to really look for it, but there are also two fences going up over the hill. Yeah, you have to remember, old-time farmers, things are kind of, this is where it should be, so down at the very end, there's a green area where the trees are kind of off the tree, leaves are off the tree now, down in there. That's a sinkhole down in there. Rumor has it that there's at least one pickup truck in there. A friend of my dad's was mad at the truck that his mom had, and it's a piece of crap, so one night after he'd had too many beers or whatever, he drove a truck in there, and it swallowed it up. After that, Dad fenced that area off so that Dick couldn't take anything else in there. But I can remember as kids, if you had stuff you had to get rid of, the sinkhole would take it, so who knows what's in there. This field was divided. That side of you was fenced in for pasture land. We took all the interior fences out. And then there's a fence across, and this end was all in alfalfa. Eric was helpful, went out and got some bids on demolition, etc. The best bid we could get on fencing, and it really wasn't all fencing, I was going to have to pay $1,800. Jim's brother knew somebody, and Jim encouraged me to call Rhineland Auctions. They paid me $500 to take all the fences away. It took them about 4 days to do it. I think that was a good balance.
Gary?
Yes?
Why is there still a fence along there?
We took out interior fences. That is not an interior fence. That's state park line.
That's the edge of the
Private on the other side.
No, that's state park.
Oh, okay.
boundary.
Oh, really?
But they put that fence line up. We
I
did
see.
not take it down.
I see.
In the later years, the cattle stayed up here full time. We used to move them from here down to the river in the winter, and in the spring from down there up to here. The state changed its guidelines about runoff into the river, so our stockyard was no longer usable, so they just stayed up here full time. We went ahead and erased that. Now you'll notice there's a sign here and a sign over there, and they say Leander Park. My grandfather's middle name was Leander, Louis Leander Trautman. His ashes are scattered here, and so are my father's. If we were quiet, if we had people not talking, you could hear the wind. Well, not even hear, not even hear the jet airplane, but you can hear the wind going through the needles. Very peaceful place. Okay, now if everyone, if we stop walking and we're really quiet, I think you can hear the trees. Soft breeze. Now, it didn't appeal to Jim and I too much in June when it was 98 degrees and we were still working here. My dad's property ends just along here. There's a marker down over here somewhere. This has been part of the 9 Mile community before 9 Mile was 9 Mile. If you walk out through the woods in that direction, way on out there, and Jim and I did that one day, way out there before you get to Charles Road, there are some depressions in the ground. That's the ghost town of Helen. When they built the dam, you had a lot of workers there building the dam, a lot of pent-up energy with the men. Helen had a house down here with some other ladies and a saloon, and this is where the men came and spent a lot of their money, evidently. My dad's plan and Jim's plan was to search out depressions. In fact, my dad bought a metal detector, and they were going to search out the depressions and see if they could find any gold or silver coins that had gone down into the latrine, but they never got to that. So Helen sits out. In fact, this whole community was known as Helen. I don't know, is there a Sontag in here, in this group? Okay, the Sontag Park, I know Maggie's daughter's still around here somewhere, because I see the name once in a while on stuff. Margaret Sontag and Benita Mason wrote a book, Welcome to 9 Mile Falls. It's just one of those little regional histories or whatever. But evidently, the women in the community and a couple ministers and a couple other do-gooders didn't want their community to always be called Helen. So they had a special election done. And since 9 Mile Dam is 9 miles downriver from the Spokane Falls, they named it 9 Mile Falls. So, otherwise, we're standing close to Helen, and we're standing in Helen. We had some huge burned wood piles to clean up down through here. There was a debris field back here, about 15 yards wide by about 50 yards, and we hauled it out of here. One dump at a time. We had a dump trailer. I think we made close to 30 trips just out of this area to clean everything out.
Whoa.
Jim and I. From time to time, I think Eric came in there a couple times to see what we were up to, but he was too late. Because it got really impressive. The day before, the county guy came down to do inspections looking for materials. We went through here and made sure there wasn't. What was here, there were 3 or 4 metal barrels. The bottoms have been rusted out. That stuff had been gone so long, but we wanted to make sure everything was gone and clean. And as far as I can see, trees grow, weeds grow, so I don't think we've got any contamination here. We're going to finish up going around the corner and down one last road. Well, honest, we'll come out at the orchard. I'll make one more stop along that way so we can look at a deer trail, although you guys probably know a lot more about deer trails than I do. And Jim and I were trying to figure out whether anybody's been walking on that yet or not. It looked like just deer hooves. But all throughout this property, you keep talking about constructing paths and stuff. Gee whiz, guys, they're here. Okay, back in behind here, down in all these little trees, there's at least 1, maybe 2 holes dug out foundations that my brother and I used to play in when we were kids. Now those trees have all grown up down there, kind of in behind us. I tried to find it one day, couldn't find it. Right over, Jim, go stand at the deer trail, please. Okay, we can see a well-defined deer trail with deer tracks. It goes off up through the woods here. When I would go for my morning walk, I'd almost always come across a family of 3. They got to the point where they would just stand and look at me and say, "You again?" If you go up over this hill, there's a bit of a climb, and then clear to the end, you'll be right over the top of a water tank and the bus barn for the school district. And you can look out across the valley there, down across Tormey Road, and etc. So it's a nice vista.
Awesome. No brainer. Thank you very much. If there's anything more we can do. Thanks, Gary.
Well, I'll be back in May.
All right.
Gary, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.